Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today, I'm going to talk about my tournament list that I'm taking to the South Australian Grand Tournament run by Doom and Darkness. So, South Australian Grand Tournament is, I think, about a 40-ish player event happening in South Australia this coming weekend, and I'm going to take my Stormcast Eternals. I've painted up a ton of Liberators, as some people might have seen on the channel or might have seen me share around social media. I'm going to try out that Stormkeep Patrol army with my own sort of take on it. So I've played a ton of practice games with this. There's some games on the channel you can go and watch as I learn the army and sort of get my hang around a bunch of rules and stuff like that. It's the first time really getting into some tournament prep for a long time. Probably actually my last proper tournament since SAGT the year before, which I didn't really do tournament prep for because I was doing a bunch of terrain painting for it. So this year, though, let's get talking about my list. So we're going to be playing with Stormcast Eternals, obviously, as I've mentioned, and I'm going to be playing Astral Templars, and we'll get talking a little bit about that in a second. Once I run through the list, I'll start talking about all of it in detail. So to start off with, my list consists of a Lord Castellan, who is my general, has Dauntless Hunters and Godbeast Plate, which I have to take due to Astral Templars. I've then got another Lord Castellan and a Lord Veritant with the Mystic Light, Lantern of the Tempest, and the Prayer Divine Light. I've then got 2 units of 30 Liberators, both with Warhammer and Shields, and 6 Grand Hammers in each unit. A unit of 10 Free Guild Guard with Swords and Shields, because I'm playing in a Stormkeep army, so this allows me to take 1 in 4 of my units as a Cities of Sigmar unit, and because Free Guild Guard a generic battle line, they fill my battle line requirement. I've then got 2 units of 3 Aether Wings, a unit of 12 Gryphounds, and a unit of 9 Knight Shadowstalkers. We've then got the Stormkeep Patrol Battalion, and an extra command point. So this leads us on 1990 points. Maybe we'll get a triumph here and there. 2 extra command points, 100 points spent in allies, and 205 wounds on the table. So let's talk about this army. So the Lord Castellan at the top, who's my general, he's just taking the artifact and the command trait I have to take because of what subfaction I'm playing, and Astral Templars. So let's talk a little bit about what Astral Templars does. So to start off with, Astral Templars gives me a +1 to hit against monsters, which is pretty darn cool. So I've got this as a generic ability across my whole army. This I really like. For me, the army here lacks damage output, and so for me to have access to this means those Liberator units with a couple of other buffs can be quite effective at just doing weight of dice onto a monster and potentially help take them down. I really need this potential damage dealing because big monsters with high rend are really the thing I'm scared of the most with this list. Not even high rend, ones that can put out mortal wounds. Things like a Terrorgeist are the ones that really worry me with this list. But the command ability that we can use with thanks to Astral Templars compounds this sort of thing, where you can use the command ability to pick a hero within 9 inch or 18 inch of your Astral Templar general, and you can add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by that unit that target a hero. Now, this might sound, I guess, not like it pairs up, but you've got to remember a lot of these big monsters like Terrorgeist generally are heroes as well, because the Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, that's the big scary, or I guess Frost Lords on Stonehorns, Dreadlords on Black Dragons, even things like Keepers of Secrets, Bloodthirsters, and all that sort of stuff. They're all heroes and monsters. So what this means, if I now have, with my Liberator block, which they're going to get against big things, they're going to get +1 to hit thanks to lay low the Tyrants. They're also going to get +1 to hit thanks to being in a Stormkeep army and not moving. So this is going to put them from a 4 with their hammers to a 3 to a 2. And they're actually going to be 1s to hit against monsters, which means I'm going to be at -2. I need to be at -2 to actually not hit on 2s. Obviously, a 1 always fails, but being on a 1+ to hit means you need 2 negatives to become a 3+ to hit. But it also means I'm going to be on 2s to wound as well against those hero monsters. So I'll be on 2s and 2s, and potentially with a sneaky maybe triumph there. Hopefully the hits, that's really the one I want the most. If I'm going up against one of them, I really want a good hit roll so I can get some 2s and 2s. Grand Hammers are decent. Most of those monsters are only on a 4-up save, so they're going to have a 5-up save against Grand Hammers who are 2 damage. If they're 2s and 2s, that's pretty good. Like, you should get through a few of those damaging hits and hopefully do some wounds to at least weaken that monster so it's not doing as much to you the next round, because this whole army here really relies on attrition and just your opponent not being able to get through the units in time. Now, obviously the Veriton is there because he has to be. He's part of the battalion. Divine Light's a really fantastic prayer that you can use, though, where he gets to either choose a friendly unit and your opponent has to reroll 6s when trying to hit them, which is good for a lot of mortal wound proccing in combat because it forces your opponent to have to reroll those mortal wounds. Or even pick one of your opponent's units and reroll 1s. This means I can defend on my turn, and then once I'm in there, I can go on the offensive as well and be like 2s and 2s against monsters, rerolling 1s to hit. So 2s rerolling 1s, and then 2s to wound. Meaning I'm going to get a lot more damage through. Now, the other Castellan, he's just there. He's got no other thing. And the Godbeast Plate means monsters are -1 to wound that particular Castellan, which is cool, but nothing to write home about. For then, the big block of my army is 2 units of 30 Liberators with Warhammers and Shields. The reason I've gone for Warhammers over Swords is because I'm getting all these pluses to hit. I don't really need the +1 to hit on the Swords. If I went with Swords, I could never get 2s to wound, ever. So for me, it's just hammers all the way. 6 Grand Hammers in the units. Obviously, you're going to make the most use of those Grand Hammers. And then 10 Free Good Guard. I've gone with Swords and Shields because it's the most defensive option. They've actually got a 4-up save in combat with Swords and Shields. So this means that they're better for holding objectives. I don't really want them with halberds or spears. Spears are just useless in any way you put it. And halberds, they're offensive, and I don't want them to be offensive. I want them to sit and hold an objective for me. Now we get into, I guess, the more interesting choices in my army. That's all pretty standard, I would say, for this army. Now, I've chosen to not go for the 2nd Battalion, which makes this army a 2-drop. Whether or not this is a mistake, I don't know. We'll see how we go over the weekend. So I've chosen instead to go with 2 units of 3 Aetherwings. Now, people may look at Aetherwings and question their inclusion because I've not got any Vanguard Raptors in the list. But Aetherwings for me, 40 points for a 3 model unit that can just fly around, take objectives. The amount of games I've played where these have either scored early and allowed me to get ahead on points, which is really important in the army, or scored late because my opponent now has to commit more units from their backline into my Liberators to try and move me off the center. The Aetherwings are able to go up the flanks or around the back of the enemy army and take objectives. This is the same reason I've taken the K-Knight Shadowstalkers, because this is a guaranteed thing with them. The K-Knight Shadowstalkers will take my opponent's home objective if they leave it unguarded. So this means they have to make the hard choice of either do I try and push for the center that they're not winning in and leave their home objective free for my K-Knight Shadowstalkers, who will just redeploy onto it. And even if they leave like a character or a 10-man unit back, I think the K-Knight Shadowstalkers can deal with most things that are left back like that. They're not too terrifying in combat, but because they're -1 to hit, if they can land a charge, they're probably going to kill enough of any chaff or cheap hero that's been left back there and deal the damage to them. They'll probably make it so the K-Knight Shadowstalkers win, especially with their champion there. I've then chosen to take a unit of 12 Gryph-hounds. Now this is part of the Stormkeep Patrol Battalion as well, so this gets to move. So the thing this does for me is it provides a screen for the army. I'm able to move up this unit of Gryph-hounds and screen out one of my Liberator blocks. This is very important because my army here is higher drop. So if I'm going second, I need that first turn. If my opponent takes first turn and tries to alpha strike me while I move into the center of the board, the Gryph-hounds are hopefully going to take the brunt of a hit. Now, obviously, this is all in the Stormkeep Patrol, and for those who don't know what Stormkeep Patrol does, is before the game begins, so most importantly, before the game begins, I get to move the Veritant and the 2 blocks of Liberators and the unit of Gryph-hounds anywhere on the table within, obviously outside of 9 inch of my opponent's army, but wholly within 12 inch of the Veritant is where they must end up deploying. So this allows me to take the center of the board really early on, and 12 inch either side of the Veritant is quite a decent range. Now obviously this is where I can redeploy the Gryph-hounds and use them as a screen. I can also use 1 unit of Liberators to screen the other one behind them who's claiming both objectives. Also on top of that, this is a big reason why I chose to take Astral Templars, is it gives my Castellans the ability to move early game, because after setup is complete thanks to the Dauntless Hunter's command trait, but before the battle begins, once again, before the battle begins, friendly Astral Templar units wholly within 12 inch of this general can move up to 6 inch. So this is cool. I can move my whole army, or at least the Castellans, up to 6 inch. So this means with a bit of pre-planning and stuff, I can move them up so their lanterns are in range turn 1, because obviously the lanterns are put into action straight away. Now, so the idea is to really take the center of the board, take the majority of objectives, and just hold. That is the whole idea with this army. And then hopefully the bits and pieces I've taken around the side, like the Eighth Wings and K-Knight Shadowstalkers, they allow me to hold. My opponent hopefully doesn't break and now has to send more forces into me, which allows me to start taking the objectives that they now have to abandon to try and get the majority that I have. That is the general idea of the army. I've got 2 command points in the army. This is in case my opponent does any tricksy sort of things, gets into those Liberators early, kills 9 or 10 of them, and they have to take Battle Shock. So this means hopefully I can just take 2 command points, Battle Shock immune. I either have the Veritant there who will be able to reach both units because he's wholly within 12 inch anyway, or I've got the Castellans who've hopefully moved up and have their 6 inch ability to use Inspiring Presence. The last little bit of tech I've got here is the Lantern of the Tempest on the Lord Veritant, the Mystic Light he's chosen to take. And the thing I've done with that is, by using that, he now can, he puts up a aura of around 12 inch of him. My opponent has to reroll 6s to hit. So, only for shooting. But this puts a little bit of extra protection, and obviously the whole battalion deploys wholly within 12 inch of him. So, straight away everything's within that bubble for the Veritant. So it all sort of just works together nicely. 205 wounds is really hard. I've seen a lot of people run this particular army when they're using things like Hammers of Sigmar to bring back the Liberator blocks as they get destroyed. For me, I haven't played a game where I've lost them early enough for it to matter. I don't lose them often enough that 5+ to really be worth it in my honest opinion. I've lost 1 blob once in all the games I've played with this so far, and in that game I was about to lose my other blob as well, so I don't think it mattered. Like, I was about to lose my whole army and they were just pushing my line. It doesn't matter if I could redeploy because I was on the objectives. My opponent had the objectives, he would have been able to hold, and it was late game as well. So I don't really see the benefit of Hammers of Sigmar. That's why I've chosen to go what I am, to potentially give me that little bit more offense so I can at least weaken monsters, if not kill some of the lighter ones like Bloodthirsters and such. But that's the list. People have been asking me to try and explain my thinking behind it. I'm no top tier competitive sort of guy, so this is just my thoughts on what I've done and why I've done it. But hopefully this has given you some information to at least think about your own list. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, while you're here on YouTube, why not go check out my featured channel section where there's a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators with a bunch of amazing things from battle reports, painting videos, list videos, and more besides. Also, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little community on Cinderful Gaming, you can do so by following the link to our Discord server in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowe, Alder and Shot First, Cowspawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Jarvis. Thank you all for supporting the channel. And if you'd like to help support the channel like they do, you can do so by following the links in the description again to either Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you all for watching though. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.